when I start turning human, I start getting a conscience, and then I can't live with what I've done to people. So then I start trying to drink. I start drinking and pouring the drugs in me to not have to think about what I've done to all these people. And then the drugs start killing me too, so it's like I'm screwed, you know, and I don't want to go to God. Like in the book, God's like trying to get...
He's trying to seduce you.
Well, but there's a bet between Satan and God that they can switch me. God's saying, hey, I can, it's like the Job story, whatever, it's like, and God's saying, hey, I can take your guy. And like in the Job story, there's a Job story, and then the Job story, Satan says, hey, I can take your best guy, God, and make him curse you. So in this story, God says, hey, I can take your worst guy and make him ask me for help. I wrote this, I wrote it almost like using hypnotic script. So when you start reading it, it opens you up, and then the stuff that gets heavy gets heavier than you expect. Real quick, I can kind of tell you how hypnosis works. It's really strange. Like let's say I'm talking to Billy, and I'm talking to him and I'm telling him a story about surfing at the pier, and we're telling, and then we paddled out, and then we walked onto the beach, and when we're on the beach, and there was a towel and a blanket, and we were sitting on the blanket, and then we had our sandwiches. So I take it from surfing, and then quickly switch the story, and now we're sitting on the beach on a towel and a blanket, and then I switch it again, and when we're on the blanket, we walk up to Main Street, and walking along Main Street, we see the shops, and we look in the window, and we find ourselves out in front of Jamba Juice, looking in the window. So I've taken him through 3 stories without finishing any one of them, with smooth transitions. And what that does is when he's listening to me, the mind tries to follow the stories, and because you're hanging the metaphors, the mind becomes open, right? It becomes open, so you're listening. And there's this thing, it's called the critical faculty. It's like a bouncer at a club. So you picture a bouncer at the club. So your mind is normally like this, and you say, nope, 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 not gonna believe it, not gonna listen, not gonna believe it. So in hypnosis, by telling those stories, the bouncer starts to just relax, and he's listening to the stories. And after the 3rd story is hung, you can start talking about that you want to not smoke, and that you want to live healthy, and you want to you like the way the fresh air feels in your lungs, and you like to be able to breathe. I don't want to do it because I don't know what Billy's smoking. I don't want to fuck with him. But anyway, so that's how you do hypnosis.
Yeah.
So it's really, you can do it just talking, and then people just relax, and then you can start planting suggestion in. And because the suggestions aren't harmful and they don't hurt you, the bouncer doesn't say, okay, come out of there, come out of there. It just lets the suggestions stay in the head. And then how you close the mind back up, you finish each story. Like you end the stories backwards, and it's like a suture sewing the mind up. It's real strange. So it opens you up, and then you're going along and you're fine and you feel fine, and then all of a sudden there's some twists that start coming in. Yeah, there's twists that start coming in, and then you get uncomfortable. And I have a lot of people that say, hey, I started crying, I had to put the book down, I couldn't sleep for a couple of nights, it kept staying with me. You know, I'd be at home trying to go to bed, and I couldn't quit thinking about it. So I get a lot of it.
It actually kind of hypnotizes you.
Yeah, it's written like hypnotic script. So
is there any other books that are like that?
Not that I know of. No. Not that I know, but most people pick it up and they say, hey, you know, I read it in one day. Or I read it in whatever, because they just get stuck into reading it and then they want to finish it.
I want to close it back up.
Yeah, whatever, it's trippy. So.
And you read a lot of books, so.
I read a lot, yeah, so. It's got all the stories of being a punk. But even before being a punk, because we were punks before you were punks.
Oh, yeah.
Damn, like punk rock's, you know, whatever. Hey, play disco music, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Born inside you. Yeah. Either you are or you're not.
And especially being like a surfer kid, like all the surfer guys I admire were idiots. You know, I remember seeing Mike Downey on the pier with a bag of oranges, throwing oranges at people. There was no punk rock involved. It was 1970. He's standing on the pier and he's got a bag of oranges at Southside. And I remember being a kid watching, and he's throwing oranges at his buddies out in the white. It's at night, like a night session.
Yeah.
He's out there hitting people with oranges. That's pretty punk.
Yeah, that's punk before punk.
Right.
Yeah.
You read stories about the La Jolla guys, Butch Van Arsdale, and you know all those guys down there.
Mickey Dora.
You know, and these are the guys I grew up with.
The original punker.
Right. So I'm thinking punk before one hard chord ever crossed my head. I might be wearing kimono.